Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Hoops Hobby Hangout. I guess this is number 8, our eighth time hanging out. As you can see, we got a full house today with some familiar faces missing and some unfamiliar faces joining us. So thank you to everybody that's hanging out here, both on the stream and in the chat. We are out Adam and Ryan today, but instead we have Jeff, Kukoc ITB, and Tim Forkbeard's basketball cards, and Mike Glenn Rice 90s cards, and as I'm sure everyone knows by now, Evan Pristine Paper joining us. I'm going to allow you guys to introduce yourself in just a second. Before we do that, we're talking all things player collecting today. So there's a theme you might notice. A lot of people here are player collectors. There was interest in just kind of talking about player collecting and how we approach it. There were some questions that came in that we'll address. Without further ado, if you guys want to start off, could you guys we'll just go in the order on the screen, I guess. So if you want to introduce yourself and the player you collect, please go ahead and do so, whatever you want to share with us.
I think I'm next. And again, sorry guys, I took up the rest of the hour because I won't stop talking. But I wanted to pause for 1 second. We talked a little bit before we started, and then I was a complete moron and realized I know exactly who Beard Fork basketball is. I've chatted with him a million times, so apologize for that brain fart. But anyways, Kukoc ITB, I've been collecting forever, it seems. Probably I'll never stop. But yeah, mainly Tony Kukoc, but I do have Robin Lopez, Bill Winnington, Provisions, and Iowa Hawkeye basketball is kind of a random hodgepodge of collections. But I'll quit talking for now so Forkbeard and everybody else can talk.
Hey everybody, great to meet a lot of you in person. I've been following along on your podcast, and it's been very fun so far, so it's great to be a part of it. But I'm Forkbeard Sports Cards, or basketball cards, and I am from New York, and I've been collecting basketball cards really since 2006 or so, when I was about 10 or 11, and then really got more into baseball. And it wasn't really until after college in 2018 or so where I really dove in hardcore in basketball, and ever since, I haven't looked back. That's my story.
What's up, everyone? Steve. I'm here every week. You all know me by now. I think I said it before on this podcast, but I have a super collection of Jay Crowder, which we can get into the whys of that if we want to. But I would also say, Joey, like, even as a team collector, I play or collect within a team. So, like, from the 90s, I have a bunch of D Brown cards. He's my favorite player. And then I might only have like 1 or 2 Reggie Miller cards. So even when I do like different types of collecting, I always tend to edge towards the player side of it, and different reasons why. But similar, like Joey was brought up at the intro about how he, struggles to hone in on one player. And I tend to have like one player from each era of my teams that I love. So I'll get like 6, 7, 20, 25 cards of theirs, maybe only one to represent some of the other players. And Joey, we haven't talked about this, but a little bit off topic. We haven't talked about if this is going to be a family-friendly show or if we're okay with the higher ratings. But Red Sox Yankees are in an elimination game right now, so if I slip up on anything, I will apologize. But it's as we're recording, it's a 0-0 game in the 4th inning. So
I had my share of expletives earlier today because my Guardians were eliminated, so I understand.
Yeah. All right, I'll pass it off to Mike.
Thanks, Steve. Luckily for me, Cubs took care of business earlier, so I'm in a good place. I'm Mike, Glenn Rice, 90s cards, from Chicago area. Started collecting baseball in 1983. In my 50s, so I go back a little bit, and then discovered basketball cards. Although I loved basketball as a sport, ever since Jordan arrived in Chicago. I discovered basketball cards in 1989 when hoops became pretty prevalent. And so I've just been collecting ever since. Glenn Rice, is my player collector that I focus on mainly, for basketball, and I've been doing that since 1990. So that's my passion. That's what would I drop everything for if I'm able to acquire a new card. Although I do, dabble in other players too, but just nowhere near the extent that I do for Rice. But I'll try to pick up Derrick Rose cards when I can. Have a small PC of him, some Jordan, of course, being from Chicago, Steph Curry, I've taken a liking to lately as well. So tried to be a little bit, well-rounded with the collecting. So thanks for inviting me onto your podcast. Looking forward to this, and I'll turn it over to Evan.
Thanks, Mike. How's it going, everybody? I know I've been on here before, so I'll kind of keep it brief. First of all, I want to say hello to everybody here, Forkbeard, Kukoc City, and Mike. I've been following you guys for quite a while, so it's really nice to get a face with the name here. Anyway, yeah, so I'm not as big of a specific player collector as, say, the past three guys that we're talking here. I more so collect within like the past 10 to 15 years of sports. So a lot of it is Boston stuff because I'm from Boston or greater Boston area. And I do have I want to call it like a Mount Rushmore of like 4 strong guys that I'll prioritize, but usually I try to go for like legends of like the Boston teams, and there's multiple eras and iterations of that, so it can get pretty deep. But I'd say my 4 guys are like Tatum, Isaiah Thomas, Al Horford, and I'll put Jaylen Brown in there as well.
Based on the Celtics theme, I'm guessing that's Isaiah Thomas, the Celtic, not the Piston.
Yeah, Isaiah Thomas, the Celtic. Although I do have, obviously respect Isaiah Thomas, the Piston as well.
And sorry, I may have missed it. Tim, did you mention a specific player that you focus on in your collecting? I know you mentioned you went from like baseball to basketball, but I may have missed that.
Yeah, let me be more specific. So more people may recognize me from baseball community on Instagram. I was very involved for many years as that was kind of coming to fruition, that community. And I had recently sold my baseball card collection earlier this year, and I had about 55 binders alphabetized A to Z. So when many people, choose the noble route and only have 4 or 5 players, which may be smarter move, I'm kind of looking at the long road a little bit with my collecting. So it's not 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5 players. It's any good player who passes a statistical threshold of 5,000 points, 3,000 rebounds, 3,000 assists, 500 blocks, or 500 threes. And I don't go beyond 1990. So if a player played in 1990 one game, and they meet that threshold of their career stats, I will collect them and find a full page of them and assemble it and try to find a card of them on every team they've played on to try to really paint a picture of that player's career. And the Tim Duncans, the Kevin Durants, the Scottie Pippens are fun, but sometimes digging up those other guys like, Andrew Lang or Michael Cooper or, Eric Montross or Eric Murdoch, just random guys that are very forgotten and had their own little story or their hand in NBA history. I love, seeing them on all of their career, but also reading about their story and, helping relay that. I have a writing background in journalism. So that in combination with a love for history, I love learning about each and every one of these players, and a lot of which I never got to see personally. So I just collected Michael Cooper and Andrew Lang. I'm working on them now. And so I'm very much looking forward to completing those soon.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've been noticing your pages that you post and how you might swap out cards or whatever. It's really cool it's a cool theme or way to go about it, because then you're not totally inundated with a bunch of cards, and you kind of have to be purposeful and intentional about what you're picking up, trying to improve it upon, what's already there. So very cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Do you have any idea how many players qualify under that umbrella of statistical accomplishments?
The exact amount, I need to get the exact amount, but I think I have a list. It's about 2,000 or so. I'm just about finished with the D's, and I don't plan to finish until 2040 or so. So this is a slow burn. So I'm going to have a fun time, about 4 players a month. And then I also collect modern as well. And as I sprinkle in cards, I put them on their pages respectively.
Yeah, that's very cool. Definitely a lot more than the 2, 3, or 4 or 5. 2,000 is quite the task. And so thank you all for kind of introducing yourselves and taking the time to do that. Sean also in the chat, I'm going to catch up on some chat stuff. Sean also mentioned that he was an Eric Montross super collector. You mentioned Montross, so not a bad time to to do that. He did mention that was quite a bit ago, 30 years ago. So yeah, and then he also shouted out in the process of the introductions Evan's Instagram, which his stuff on Instagram and YouTube is really, really good. So yeah, definitely check that out if you haven't seen that
You
recently.
guys are making me blush right now. Thank you.
All you guys that are joining us for the first time, we're expecting 2 Eric Montross references in the first 10 minutes, right? That's what you thought this conversation would go. UNC legend Eric Montross.
He makes the cut.
Honestly, that blows my mind because I just remember him being such a bust for the Celtics. I mean, number 9 overall pick in a time when the Celtics didn't even look like a professional basketball team, and I thought he stuck around for a few years, but it blows my mind that he makes the cut on that list.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's cool because then you get to look at, like you said, the history of other players, and that's what kind of Sean was mentioning is he saw, I'm probably butchering the name, a Bison Dele card, and so it prompted him to go down his story. So yeah, that's very cool in terms of that. Did you guys want to just jump straight into questions because to make sure
I kind of want to hear from if put a couple guys on the spotlight here is maybe the 2 90s players collectors can share a little bit. I think some of the questions are about how you guys cut off the timelines for cards, right? So maybe like my super collectors, thankfully, I think Jay's finishing up his career before the top stuff takes over because that's a whole separate conversation, but I'm looking to be done with the print run. But you guys, as far as collecting players from the 90s that have had cards that have continued in mass, like how are you cutting it off? What's your approach to just sort of your own personal checklist? And I'll let either of you guys go or kind of talk together on that.
And before you do, can I just expand on the question? Because I put the question down at the bottom of the screen, but I didn't have the space to put it all. So I'm just going to expand on the full question. The full question was about how you feel about collecting non-playing days cards. And the person who asked the question says that they've tried to stay away from them, but as they've collected and completed the playing days run of the cards of their player, they're starting to give a second look at those non-playing days cards, the retired cards. And they haven't started picking many yet, but especially the rare stuff like logo mens or 1-of-1s are appealing to them because, even players that have retired can have really cool cards. So that's kind of the context of it. So if you guys want to share your thoughts on all that, go ahead and take the floor.
Yeah, I could start if you want for myself. Like I've limited it to playing days only for me. Now I had tried to collect and pick up, nice patch cards, from modern day, Panini releases over ice. It just didn't do much for me. I didn't really connect with those cards as much, as opposed to the ones that came out when I was younger. I like having just a set, like this is the list. This is the 1,000 or so cards that I'm looking for. And you may think, well, that's only going to take you so far. But, some of these cards, for a 90s player collector, some of these cards don't necessarily have a ton of value, but they're extremely rare and extremely hard to find when you look at it like a completionist perspective. And that's what I do. So I'm not just collecting, your base Fleer and maybe some parallels that came, with it. I'm searching for, regional food issues that are hard to find. I'm trying to find language variations from Collector's Choice in the mid-90s that were circulated only in Japan that are like near impossible to find. So it keeps you, certainly busy and keeps you looking. And for as long as I've been doing this, there's still a decent handful number of cards, that I'm searching for each and every day. So for me, it's playing days only. I tried beyond that. It didn't really connect so much for me, personally. I know others, that do love it. And I find it challenging enough to locate and isolate those playing days cards. And for Rice, it was basically 1989 through the 2003-2004 season. That was his last cards, on a Clippers team, where all former 90 stars kind of go to die, right? Like it's like their final destination. They play a small handful of games. The guys like that you would never even think of that play, like Grant Hill and Dominique Wilkins and Glenn Rice, all had a stint, at the end of the road with the Clippers. So that's just been my approach. I'll hand it over to Jeff because I know he's big into Kukoc in the '90s and beyond.
Just for a little comic relief, I'll share that I listened to a podcast probably a year or two ago with Wilkins on it, and they were going through his time with the Spurs, his time overseas, his time in Boston. They asked him about the Clippers, and I've never felt someone's anger through the radio as much as I did Dominique talking about that Clippers team. He hated that organization, so I'm always down for a little bit of Clippers hate. So I just thought I'd make that little connection. But yeah, sorry to interrupt, Jeff. You take it over.
I'm really good at interrupting, and so I'm used to it. It's not a problem. So I started out in baseball, and I don't want to go on forever with that, but switched to basketball kind of with Jordan and the Bulls, and so I was doing all Bulls from the beginning. It was like even before serial numbered cards and like rare cards, I was like, I can't, because I want to get them all, and there's no way I can get a Jordan rookie and every other rookie, everybody. And so, Kukoc was new to the scene, and I was like, hey, this guy's kind of a unselfish player, hits the big shots, kind of does whatever. It's like a utility tool, can do, whatever they need him to do. And so kind of just started with him. And so people would hand me piles of Kukoc cards at card shows, and I go, well, how much do you want for them? They go, nothing. Just get them away from my table. Because they weren't, a lot of Kukoc cards aren't really worth a whole lot. And, the boom happened, and, some of my Kukoc cards are really, people are offering me make sure my wife's not listening, significant amounts of money for certain cards. And it's like, it's kind of tempting, but then I'm like, oh, I'm going blurry. But then I'm going to want the card back. And so with modern stuff, so for the longest time, I was buying rare Kukoc cards for like $20-$30 on eBay. And it's like, oh, I can do this for as long as I need to. Well, now the cards that I have left that I don't have there's some cheap ones, but there's some monsters that are thousands of dollars. And it's just like, I'm not the type of person that has that kind of money to drop on a single card. So I've kind of had to change some, and I was trying to keep up. If it was something I didn't have, I was bidding on it on eBay, and you just get to a point where there's so much. And so Kukoc had around 1,000, and that's kind of loosely because I count some variations that aren't technically variations and things like that. So about 1,000 playing days cards, and then with Panini, he has about 2,600 cards now. So Panini's more than doubled the amount of cards. And yeah, there's some that I'm like, oh, that looks really nice. And I try to get some of the variations, but I think the last couple years I'm picking up like 3 or 4 cards a year, and they're coming out with a couple hundred. So yeah, I've kind of adapted away from that. And that's why I've started heavy on Robin Lopez, because the Robin Lopez version of the card's $5 and the Kukoc version's $50. And it's like, well, yeah, if I can buy 10 different rare I cannot say it, Robin Lopez cards, holy cow, for the price of one Kukoc card. I'm a completionist. I want to get everything, but I'm also kind of realistic. And I feel bad for the people that have collected, once you kind of get into a player collection, and again, tell me to stop if I talk too much, but you get that pressure of like, oh, but I got to keep going. And so I've talked to a few collectors that they haven't had anything in Panini, and now Panini's kicking out Logo Man and shoe cards. And they're like, all these cards are $500 a piece. And it's like, at some point, regardless if you have an unlimited income or what, you got to be like, okay, there's got to be a stopping point. I just really feel like for a majority of the people probably on this stream and in life in general, you can't get everything anymore. And, I really struggled with it for a while, but I think that, I've kind of come to terms with it. And yeah, I still hunt, and I search to the sticking end of the internet and back. I go on Facebook. I go on Beckett Marketplace. There still is a Beckett Marketplace. I saw a really rare card on the other day, and I should have bought it, but I didn't, and it's sold now. But it wasn't Kukoc, so. But I'm searching everything. I search Sport Lots, ComC, BuyNiceCards.com. I mean, I'm searching everywhere, and I'm searching most of those places daily. And I've found some cool stuff for cheap, and but it seems like it's not as easy as it used to be. I think there's just a lot of people hunting. But I mean, I go every resource. One more thing, and then I'll stop talking for a minute. I found a really rare card of Nene Hilario. I think I'm saying that right. And Rorgan, who's he's got a huge Nuggets collection. I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, do you need this Nene Topps Total Gold to 10 out of 0506?" And he's like, "Let me look." He's like, "I do need it." And I was like, "He wants $25, $6 shipping." He's like, "Buy it, and I'll send you the funds." And I enjoy doing that because when I know what you're looking for, like Sholee has like over 50% of the run of Jay Crowder RPAs from National Treasures. And so like if I was to see one of those for $20, I'd be like sold. And whether Sholee paid me back or if I just sent it to him for free. I mean, I'm not made of money, but I like placing cards where they belong. And so that's kind of, you kind of got to expand because around here, most people are like, I have no idea who Tony Kukoc is. So then I got to look, see what else I can find. But I could talk for a couple more hours, so I'll stop for now. But hopefully that kind of answered your question.
Yeah, no, that was good, Jeff. And I think it's so interesting what the two of you shared about being a completionist and feeling that pressure. And then I'm sorry, is it Tim? Am I saying that right? Tim.
Yeah.
Talk about the exact opposite of like having a binder page because it doesn't want to go down that completionist rabbit hole and is doing more players. And I'll use my Paul Pierce collection as an example. Like when I first got back in the hobby, I wanted all of his rookie cards, right? And then, like Mike was saying with the patch cards, I got some really rare Pierce rookie cards that, like, I wish I still had because it'd be a nice bankroll. But like, I had his Star Rubies out of 25 rookie card. I had his UD Spectrum out of 25. But they didn't do anything for me. So I ended up selling those, and I just chased all of his Topps and Prisms gold cards for his playing days. Like once they stopped, and I went past his Celtics days. So I have his Nets and his Clippers and his Wizards, gold refractors or gold prisms. But then I stopped, and I liked the Topps refractors and the prisms because that's what I collected as a kid. The Upper Deck stuff, the Skybox stuff, it just didn't do anything for me. So I stopped, and I've also stopped with playing day stuff for Pierce. I mean, he's in every dang set, and unless it's a really cool auto that like, maybe one auto, like I got an auto to represent his Hall of Fame induction. I got one auto to represent, there's one with him with the Finals MVP trophy, but I really don't do much. And actually, as a player collector for Pierce, because I have all of his gold refractors and I have all of his playing day gold prisms. I actually don't search his cards that much anymore. I've moved on from that. I've pivoted to, other aspects of my collection. So I almost feel like my Pierce collection is done, which is kind of a weird feeling, but I have no real use for any of his, ultra modern stuff. It doesn't scratch the itch for me, but I think it's going back to what I first said, such a cool dichotomy here with like the completionist, which I feel with a lot of my stuff. And then we'll sprinkle in like this, a little bit of this player, a little bit of this player while still being a player collector. So I don't know if anybody else wants to sort of add to that piece about, how you limit or focus your collection.
I can add just a little bit. I generally try to stay, everyone's got to know where their lane is financially and, how much you could spend and how much you can't. I try to stay generally under $100. Sometimes I go up to $200 if there's something I really would like. But those immaculate cards and those sets with the big patches of a lot of retired players, oftentimes, they're very enticing, but they're generally too expensive for me. So I only try to dip into those cards and post-retirement cards if I need it. For instance, Glenn Rice on the Clippers. I have a question for our Glenn Rice expert. Is there a Glenn Rice card that was a contemporary card on the Clippers? I didn't see one.
Contemporary as in
when he played on the Clippers. It was a brief stint.
He does have playing days Clippers cards. There's probably just a small handful. If I look at, I keep everything in a binder so I can quickly access it. He has Bazooka. He's in the Bazooka set. And there's actually 4 different versions of that card. He has a gold bordered bazooka. He's got the mini sticker. He's got the base. He's got a quad with some other players on it as well. So that's a good one, to kind of look at if you're looking to add to.
Okay, yeah, because when I was looking on eBay, I only saw like a national.
Search bazooka. You'll find it there.
Send me a DM tonight to remind me. I opened a bunch of 0405 Bazooka because it was $20 at my LCS. I bet I might have something that I could send you to kind of fill that hole in your binder, because I have probably a close to complete base set and a ton of the golds as well. I'll check my boxes for you.
And yeah, the product is underrated. I know a good chunk of it really isn't worth a whole lot, but just the variations, the mini, the thick gold one, the 4-in-1 sticker, because Kukoc is in, I think, just maybe 1 year of that. I just thought those were so cool. And I mean, you could get most of those for $1 or less. If you go on like Sport Lots, cards start at 20 cents. And if you can find a seller and they have a bunch of stuff, I mean, you can really get, there's still, cheap cards to be had. Not everything has to cost a ton of money. And so I think that's, again, part of the reason why I shifted. Also talking about Topps Chrome. Topps Chrome is my all-time favorite product. I have every Kukoc refractor, not counting supers, because I was stupid and didn't get a super when I had a chance to, but that's besides the point. But I have all of them. There is a Bulls card that has like Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, and Kukoc is on the back, and it's a refractor. And I want one, but I think they're like $500 to $1,000, and I'm sure more if they're graded. And then, maybe someday down the road, I might, look for a lower graded one that's not greening. I don't really like green refractors. And so certain years, for those of you who are like, what are you talking about? Certain years of Topps Chrome and Topps Finest, they green. Some of them green just to be green. Some of them green because they're exposed to light. Some of them green for whatever reason. So most of my main collection is not green. But I have a bunch of Kukoc Finest rookies, and some of them were green and some of them weren't. And I put them together, and then they all turned green, and I was like, oh, oops. So I actually bought one recently, just the base of his rookie, and it's complete color, no greening at all. And I don't do much grading, but I think I'm going to send that one and another refractor that has 0 greening and just get them in case. So maybe it'll delay or maybe prevent it from going green. But grading's a whole nother story that we could talk for weeks.
So you're saying refractive greening is like a gift that keeps on giving from one card to the other, huh?
Well, and it is, and so I kind of learned that the hard way. But again, I mean, Kukoc rookies aren't really worth. I mean, they're worth a couple bucks a piece, I guess. But I see people and they're like, "Oh, I got this 10 of this monster Kobe card," and you look at it, and he looks like the Hulk, and it's like, yeah, that's a cool card, but I don't think you're gonna get your. And again, you collect what you want. If you want greening refractors, you go for it. To me, I want to have it look like how it came out of the pack.
Yeah.
Not
some of them get pretty tough for sure.
Yeah. But again, I could talk for hours. I know way too much about cardboard.
So I will give let's give Jeff a little shout out. So Sean in the chat says Jeff's a great guy. He's known him since the blowout forums. And if anybody wants to go down a rabbit hole, Jeff also mentioned buynicecards.com. If you're really on a good time, look up buynicecards.com and the blowout forums for a good discussion. If you guys have been on the forums for a while, you'll know, but we won't go into that.
And also shout out that Sean mentioned Steve, and I know you're kind of responding in the chat that he feels the same way with KG as you do with your Pierce. So kind of shifting away after the playing day stuff. But sorry, Jeff, you were going to mention.
Super quick, if I could interject while we're talking about 93 Finest. They do get a little green. I get it. Let me tell you, I find one of those things. I see the little wrap on it. I take it off right away. I don't care. Put it right in the binder sleeve. If it goes green, it goes green. I like green. You guys know my page. Green is my color. You guys, anyone who knows my page, green, teal, I don't mind. But I have to say, what's that?
I was gonna say I'm anti pulling the film off the cards. I know they look awesome without the film, but I'm kind. I don't know, and I don't.
That's
I
okay.
don't dislike you, but you're a monster. No, I'm just kidding. But
No, I totally get it. Sacrilegious to many people. So are binders. Let's be real; they're very PC. If you mention binders in a convention, everyone's like, "Whoa, binders!" You know what I mean?
yeah, you're putting that in a box.
Yeah, and you mentioned liking them the way they came out of the pack, so that's the way they came out of the pack, right?
No, the peel on a refractor is part of the shipping material. Get it out of here. It's like keeping the cards in the pack. It's not meant
Let it
to
breathe.
be. Let that
I
thing
agree.
breathe.
Set it free and enjoy it.
But just real quick, what a 30 seconds. What a beautiful set though, because it's in my eyes, is it the first set where there are shinies, refractors, foils, 93 Topps Finest? And it's such a deep set.
For basketball, yes.
Right, for basketball. So like for when I collected baseball, I would look for 93 because I wanted to get a shiny of Robin Yount and George Brett before they retired, like a contemporary card. So to see a Larry Bird contemporary refractor is so cool to me. And very niche players like Sleepy Floyd and guys like that. You know, it's such a fun set.
Can I ask some follow-up questions on this topic, or have we exhausted it?
I think you could talk for days on it. So I'm game to keep going, but
Let's do it. So I wanted to ask Mike, you mentioned that you enjoy looking for even the cheaper, less valuable rare cards as much as the other ones. So I don't know if the right way to ask this question, if you're picking up one of those rare language variations of Collector's Choice versus a PMG or something, does the difference in value affect like the satisfaction of finally finding it after looking for it for so long, or does that not really play a role at all?
It's a great question. Value really doesn't matter to me because while he has the majority of his cards are extremely affordable, of course, there are some on the opposite end of the spectrum that are going to literally cost you $20,000 for a PMG Green or a 1998 Jump Masters. I'll tell you, today I was at work and I did a quick search on eBay, and and Jeff knows, one of our favorite sellers of kind of rare oddball cards had some listings, and one of his listings was a batch of 70 Japanese language Collector's Choice cards from You Crash the Game Gold and Silver. And like, I'm like, oh my God, right? And so, and of course, like there's 4 Glen Rice Japanese language cards from that set, 2 silvers and 2 golds, based upon the dates on the bottom. I own 1 of the 4. I am missing 3 still. And as luck would, of course, have it, the one that he had listed was the one that I already had. So, man, I wouldn't say devastated, but I was pretty bummed out that I was thinking for sure, I'm like, oh, I'm going to cross one off the list. Again, those are very, very hard cards to come by. And so if that would have come to fruition, I would have been over the moon, for a card like that one. Because you put in a lot of time and you put in a lot of effort. And I know this isn't really part of the question, but, finding cards of a semi-star player, and I put Rice and Kukoc kind of into that same category. They weren't superstars of the 90s like Penny and Jordan and Kobe, but they were really, really good all-star level players. Rice was a 3-time All-Star. He was a 3-point champion. He was an NBA champion with the Lakers. So he had some credentials. He was an NCAA champion at Michigan. So he was a great player. But people don't necessarily just list Glen Rice cards, for sale all the time that they may find in the shoebox or in their closet, right? Now, if they find that Jordan card in the shoebox, yeah, they're gonna think it's worth something. So for me, it's been a couple of the primary thing is like friendships, in the hobby and in meeting other collectors that are kind of like-minded to you that collect those niche players. And I go back a few years, right, when we were on message boards and the old AOL days, and we would do things a lot differently than we did them today. Like we would send care packages out to one another of just 30 or 40 cards that you amassed over 3 or 4 months, and you just send it to your buddy for free, right? Just, hey, take it, and then you get like a mystery package coming in for you. Maybe you needed one or two cards that kind of came in there. So you built up this like network of guys who were always looking out for each other. So I would go to shows in Chicago area, right? And we had some local shows. And then, friends of mine would, Jeff's in Iowa, right? Other guys are in California, and as they're digging through dollar boxes and 50-cent boxes, you can come across some of these really tough to find, variations that I would have never personally found because I'm not in California at a card show looking through a box. So those like connections and relationships that you made in the old days were really, really cool. And so that's just one way I've been able to find them. Most of my rarest cards have come through like a hobby connection as opposed to just a buy it now situation on eBay, or you don't see cards of Glenn Rice listed on like Fanatics auctions or anything like that. So you have to just kind of use your network. So like I said, there's some rare stuff that guys from all over the globe have reached out to me on, whether it's been a rare card from the 90s that does have some value, or just stuff that I've never even seen before. I can share one example of that, of a card that's probably worth all of $5, maybe $10 on a good day. It's from 1997. It's in the old days, we used to have these things called phone cards. When we would buy them and use them for our cell phone, and AT&T would have a NBA promotion of NBA players, and this is the only time I've ever seen this particular card ever available. And so like I love this. This is like an awesome card that probably only 3 or 4 people in the entire world even care about or even looking for. And this is something that I really cherish in my collection because it was so hard to find. I believe it came from a collector in France, had reached out to me. He had come across a whole box of these types of things of all different players. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll pay you whatever it costs, shipping, all of it. Just send it my way. I appreciate it.
Yes, Evan, there was a time before you were born that some of us were happy to get some phone cards in our stockings because it would make our life a little bit easier when we were out and about with our friends. And
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that comment. Yeah, I was like,
that
what
Glenn
is he
Rice
even
is super,
holding up
that's super
there?
cool.
Yes, really cool though.
I think there's a great quote that kind of answers your question perfectly. I feel like George Lucas said it the other day, and it really impacted me. He said at one of these San Diego Comic-Cons when he was asked about art and what it means, and it's different to every person. It's not about the value or anything. But he goes, I think it's more about the connection with the work, not how much it costs or what celebrity did it. It's more of a personal thing. If you have an emotional connection to something, that's art. Your art is different than someone else's art. So it doesn't necessarily need to be, feel better if you were buying a $500 card, but that $10 card, you could just need it so much. It could be, there's a spot in his binder that's missing, but once that's in, it's worth more than that $500 card. So I think that it depends on the person.
That's a great quote.
Well, that's
No, that's so true. That feeling of like when you complete a binder page, there's nothing. I remember chasing a out of 25 Jay Crowder card. I ended up hitting the bin on it for like $2.50 or something, like $2.50. But it was the last one I needed for a rainbow. It was like one of the first year Prism rainbows, and I like when I got that stupid thing in. Like I remember just like taking my time putting into the binder page because I was like, this is so much fun. There's those little moments of collecting that really just put a smile on your face for sure. And I think that was well said.
that AT&T card. I was been searching for the Kukoc forever, and I'm pretty sure the same guy you got yours off of, I have it too. I don't have it handy because I don't use binders as much. But yeah, to me, regardless of price, if I can get a card in that I don't have, it's an awesome feeling. And so I think I need less than 100 Play-In Days Kukoc cards, and I'd say probably a good chunk of them are very expensive, but I'd say there's probably like 15 to 20 that are like $2 cards, but people aren't like, oh, I need to list this Kukoc on eBay because somebody's looking for it. I mean, they're just, and some of them are fairly rare, but they're not necessarily value-wise. And I remember I did find a Glenn Rice that he didn't have, which was amazing. But I bought a lot at a card show, and there's a Stadium Club retail foil variation. And I was like telling him, I'm like, well, I got this Glenn Rice card, but it has 2 different kinds of foil. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I sent it to him, and he's like, I did not have that card. And it's like, I got it for nothing. I sent it to him, no problem. Yeah, that one right there. It was funny because so the other one's kind of more silver foil, and that one's orange. Orange, you glad I didn't say banana? That's my dad joke for the show. But yeah, so I was telling him about it, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so when he got it in, he looked at it, he said, oh, I needed that one. And I mean, there's certain people that are just on a different echelon when it comes to player collecting. And I mean, that Glen Rice collection is up there. And again, it's not necessarily a competition, but there's just some people you're like, is there any cards they don't have? And I mean, I feel like I'm getting there, but I mean, I think with just, I think there's a lot of money in this hobby right now, but I don't think the knowledge is there. So I think that's part of the problem is people are, on modern stuff, they're spending a ton of money, and at some point they're going to get burned. And then the people that are spending the money on, breaking these expensive 90s boxes, I really feel like, they're saying that certain years a skybox are like $30,000 boxes. I'm like, I don't think so. And maybe they are because there's not that many left. But I have a hard time believing some of the prices that people are paying for these rare cards. I'm like, is it really selling for $200,000? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, the math just doesn't math sometimes. I mean, and that's in a lot of places. That's on Whatnot. That's in these auction houses. It's on the high end stuff on eBay. I'm like, yeah, did that really sell for what, and there's so many people, retracting bids and doing different stuff. And I mean, if you really look into it, you got to do your research. Don't just put in some monster bid on something because you got to have it, because you're going to end up paying way more than you should. And then you're not going to enjoy the card as much. And and again, I'm sorry, I'm a talker, but there was a Shaq collector, and he's like, once you spend more than what you feel like the card's worth, yeah, you enjoy getting that in, but then you're like, I spent $5,000 on this card.
You don't want to regret it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have a red Kukoc PMG. I paid $150 for it. And at the time I was like, that's a lot of money. I mean, when I bought it, it was worth at least 300. And I've had people offer me like 8 to 10 grand for it. And it's like, that's a lot of money. But I have a problem spending a ton of money on a card I don't have. I mean, if I had the money, sure, but I got 3 kids and they like to eat and get stuff themselves, and
unacceptable.
That's so selfish.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's like, go without a meal sometime. Yeah, like I ever go without a meal, but
lunch is canceled today due to a lack of hustle.
Yeah. It's like, oh, sorry, I'm gonna have to put more in my card budget and take it away from your lunch money. Be like the parent bully, but yeah, I don't always have a ton of money to go towards cards, but like if I can find a card, so I'm looking at all these random Facebook sales, and I'm like, oh, there's a low numbered card of this person. This person might be interested in it. I go, hey, you need this? Sure, I'll claim it for you. You could send me PayPal or whatever, and it doesn't take much, and it's fun to make those connections. I kind of feel like I'm no Mike Wolf, but I feel like I'm an American picker of dusty cardboard, not rusty gold. It's dusty cardboard.
So between mentioning buy nice cards and now American pickers, you're picking up on a couple of things that have some scandals behind them, because
there's plenty of scandals. There's scandals in everything, but
what I was just going to pick up on what you said, Jeff, and sorry to interrupt, but I'm doing it on purpose too. I think Tim, if you can jump on this, but I'd also like to hear from Mike. I think part of, because this is, I know from your collection, part of it is there's like you're always getting something to add to your collection, right? That's part of your focus with doing like a player at a time. And I'll say one of the things that like doing a deep player collection I really enjoy about it, I'm sure the collectors out there that do deep team collections, is I like a mail day. I'm not someone that just wants to own 10 cards or 100 cards. So to being able to get, whether it's buying a 50-cent Jay Crowder card or Pierce card on ComC and letting it build up and having a nice ComC mail day, or like hitting a bin on a $3 refractor that I don't have for my Pierce binder. Like I like those small little rushes of being engaged in the hobby and searching for places. And it keeps me feeling more active as opposed to there are those moments where I sit back and be like, wow, these, like I'm really big into the WNBA right now, and I'm kind of going more towards the player collection that as well. And I'm like, wow, if I didn't buy these 5 cards and I took that money, I could have bought something really nice. But I like the small mail days. I like the binder editions. I like that sort of continuous flow of hobby engagement. And Tim, I'll let you sort of, if you have any thoughts to add to that, because I do know that's a big part of where you go with the Aussies. You said, like, I'm not going to be finished till 2040, but you want to be adding to that, consistently as you go. So
I think that's very well said, Holly. I think that for me, it's, I would love my Holy Grail cards coming in, and hopefully over time they will. But the day-to-day process, the mail days, those Monday mail days, those are fat mail days. So like having 10 cards come in and putting them exactly where they're supposed to go, to me is it's a part of a almost, I don't want to, almost daily process. But it's a fun thing to do, and I love looking through my collection and I love getting big cards. But for me, if I can have a bunch coming in, that's more fun, the process.
And I was just going to ask if you do it daily, because I'll usually let my mail days pile up, my player stuff, and I'll then, like, when the kids are out for a day, like this Saturday, I know for a fact they're heading down to see their grandmother with my wife. So like I'll put on a podcast or some music, and I'll go, and I'll probably have 2-3 dozen cards from different years of Crowder's stuff to start collecting and sorting. And I like to let it pile up, and really, because then I'm forced to go through like 3 or 4 binders at a time. But I definitely get the daily piece too, and sort of cataloging things. It's different approaches for sure.
I probably do it right when I get home from work. Just like it takes 10 minutes, just take quick photos, put them in, and it's typically 5 to 10 cards. I look forward to it, whenever I know something's coming in. So most days, if they come in right away.
For me, I put into like 2 buckets of his cards, right? I have one like call high value white whale type of a category, like your 101s or your really expensive cards. If I'm able to add 1 card from that bucket a year, at this point I'm ecstatic. I've been fortunate to find 2 this year, and that's rare. And then the other bucket would be kind of like the lower value, but still kind of a unicorn card that's hard to find. And, that may be only, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 a year. So the mail days are few and far between for the Rice collection. But, I have other interests. I still have my baseball, that I focus on. I have some of the other player collections that I look for too. So while mail days aren't as frequent as they once were many years ago when I was working down, I just keep an old school paper list. This is an old Beckett checklist. I've had trading card database checklists. And I mean, this thing is like falling apart. It's that old. But I enjoy the very analog experience of collecting. I have spreadsheets too, so I will tip into the Excel world a little bit, but for the Rice PC, it's basically all in my head or on these pieces of paper.
Since we're on the topic, Evan, can you chime in too? Where are you in terms of your 4 major player PCs? Are you trying to kind of keep the pickups flowing in, or are you more trying to get bigger cards that are I don't know, harder to find, rarer to come by, much fewer and further between?
White whales.
Yeah.
White whale. There you go.
I feel like I'm probably in that boat, right? You mentioned in the latter. I was in a phase where I was kind of in the getting mail every couple of days, and having that consistent hobby involvement. However, ever since I started making more like content on YouTube, I've kind of felt that itch of like staying involved in the hobby without having to purchase cards as frequently. So that I kind of then shifted towards bigger cards over more time, and been really enjoying it like that, I feel like. And being able to you guys see that I like to like find the image from where the game is from, or try to connect some type of aspect of the material used. So just try to like find aspects of like to like deeper my passion within the card as well. So I feel like that's kind of where I'm at, just kind of collecting more white whales than common whales, I guess.
Yeah, and that's a huge deal. I feel like, I mean, we mentioned, I think Jeff, you were talking about everyone's got a limited budget, and so it's so huge to be able to engage with cards without having to spend money. So yeah, whether you're looking up images, whether you're creating YouTube videos or whatever, and obviously that's what's great about Instagram is anybody can jump on there and put whatever thoughts or cards or combinations of cards on there. So yeah, I think that's a great point.
I get a lot of enjoyment out of just organizing a collection, right? Finding ways to display it in a way that brings me a lot of enjoyment. So it could be like reorganizing a binder, or sometimes you get a new card in, it like throws off the whole ecosystem of your binder, and you got to like, oh my god, next thing you know, you got 300 cards on your desk, and like rearranging stuff just because one card came in. And so that type of kind of organization, that's kind of how I'm wired. Type A personality. You kind of like I kind of like that. So there's definitely ways to enjoy the hobby without always shelling out a bunch of money. Going to shows and just digging through stuff is fun for me too. Seeing old friends and things of that nature is always great as well.
See, and yeah, I mean, even just they say once something's on the internet, it stays there forever, and I disagree with that because luckily I did a lot of research on a lot like WorthPoint and other websites. WorthPoint was a site that tracked a lot of eBay sales, and I went through that site and found what coup coaches they had, and I've been able to say, okay, I think certain cards just don't exist, and that is somewhat common with certain sets from the 90s, and again, I think that's kind of why I like the hunt is like some stuff you just don't know the whole story on. Like I did a lot of research, and there's a 98, 99 black diamond quad diamond out of 150, and there's about 30 cards that weren't made based off of my research, and then they made extras of the rookies, I think, to make up, like, I don't know if they got ruined while they were cutting them or printing them or whatever, but they don't exist. And Coup Coach is numbered to 150. I've never seen one. And there's like 30 other player collectors that have never, but there are certain players that do, and that's a beautiful card. And so the base is silver.
Love that one.
There's a gold, there's a red, and there's a green.
Yeah,
And the
great
green
set.
looks awesome. And of course my son's making noise when I'm trying to talk, but yeah, it's like I love doing that research too. And then because people are like, "Oh, I'm trying to complete this set, and I can't find these cards." I'm like, "Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they don't exist." And I wish I could go find somebody that worked at Upper Deck at the time and be like, "Hey, do you remember what happened with this?" And they'd probably be like, "You're crazy." But it's interesting to kind of do a deep dive in some of that historical stuff and figure out what is the story and why is this like it is. But
I agree, Jeff. And what you're saying reminds me of 98, 99 OPC basketball, where they had the mirror set for Topps for Series 1, and then they stopped creating OPC, so Series 2 never came out. So the rookies are in the checklist, but they don't exist, and it's like a white whale thing, and people get hung up on it. And I love that every rare card we're talking about, Mike's like, hold on, I got to, he's like flipping through all the stuff, it's all curated perfectly.
looks like Forkbeard's question of the OPG.
Yeah, I did. They made OPG for basketball?
Yep.
Yes, and
Really?
it was
2 years.
Yeah,
later.
2 years.
But
Ah.
both years is only one of the series. Coup Coach only has one card out of the 2 years, and there was a Canadian release, and there was one per like every 6 packs, I think.
Yeah.
And they are stupid rare. I think I actually have like 3 or 4 Coup Coach though, because I've just came across some cheap and I just picked them up. But it took me a long time to find it. But yeah, it looks just like the Topps release, but it says OPG.
Oh, I've
where the
seen
Topps
those.
logo is.
Okay.
But see, in that same year, there's a minute in Springfield, and then there's a minute in Springfield Gold. And I don't know the story of the golds, but I've seen them. I've owned some, and they're like, "Oh, it's because you left it in the light too long." I'm like, bronze doesn't turn to gold if you leave it in the light too long. There's an actual gold version. He's flipping. He's probably getting it out, but it's the same logo. Because certain foil on the cards is gold, and certain foils bronze. But there is a gold minted in Springfield, and I've never seen a Coup Coach, but I believe it does exist. And that's the thing about like 90s basketball. I mean, in these cards, you can find them and they're not expensive. And like if there's a guy you grew up and you're like, oh, I really liked how this guy played. I mean, you can get a majority of cards for so cheap, and I think they're way better looking than a lot of the modern stuff. I think refractors will always be better than Prism. I just think that they shine better. I mean, I like Prism. I think overall it's a really great product, but I still say Tops. I'd still pick Tops Chrome 7 days out of the week. But yeah, and that's the thing. Like this knowledge is not out there, so Forkbeard's like, what? What are you talking about, OPG? There's no OPG basketball. Yes, there is. And that's the thing is like the information's not out there. Like if you dig for it, you can find a little bit, but there's not. And so I'm hoping to someday get some of that information out there and do like a YouTube series myself and kind of go over some of those random products. And, there's just a lot of stuff that people don't know that it exists because it just doesn't. Yeah. And even old Beckett's. I mean,
Get yourself an old Beckett. Get yourself an old Beckett. It's got pack odds. It's got a lot of great information in here. It's not a comprehensive checklist, but it's just a lot of good information.
And
I really wish I could just
hold on, Jeff. I do this every week, and this just isn't you personally, but I'm the one that comes in and says, "All right, we try to keep this at an hour," but I want to give you guys a chance to sort of wrap things up. But just to make Jeff's brain explode. I mean, imagine the conversation you could have right now around test refractors. Like there's just so many odd things in the 90s, and for us old heads that were on the forums, like you used to actually be able to connect with people that had historical knowledge a little bit more, and they could share links and Beckett's and stuff, and it's a different ecosystem for sure. But we do try to keep things to an hour just so people can follow up. It's not as interactive when it's not live, but we like to have some listeners there. So I want to pass the buck to each of you. Honestly, I really, really, and I know I'm speaking for Joey, Ryan, and Adam when I say this, I really appreciate you guys hopping on, being able to share some stories in a very unstructured format. I know it's not your typical get on, tell a story format. It sort of bounces around, but let's just go in the same order again. No, let's reverse it. We'll go Evan, Mike, Tim, Jeff. Just anything you want to share, cards you're looking for, handles, final takeaways about player collecting. The floor is yours, as they say.
Thanks, Steve. Nothing really I want to shout out. Just you guys can find me on Instagram. My handle's on the screen for the ones in the live, but if you're listening, it's at Pristy_paper on Instagram. Nothing really I'm looking for right now. Just, I just kind of see things that I want. And so it's kind of hard to pinpoint what I'm looking for. But anyway, just was a fun conversation. Really interested in hearing from different eras of collectors. As Steve always, jokes about, I'm much younger than a lot of the guests on the show or the hosts themselves. So it's always good to learn. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah. Thanks for all the information.
Yeah, and you're the same on YouTube, right? Pristine Paper.
Yeah. I think I'm no underscore on YouTube, so just Pristine Paper. But you should be able to find me. It's the same logo and everything.
Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity to come on tonight. Hopefully we can connect again down the road. You can find me on Instagram at GlennRice_90s_cards. Just anytime anybody wants to talk about 90s cards in general, it doesn't have to be about Glenn Rice. I always appreciate learning from others and maybe sometimes sharing a nugget or two about cards. And for your, 3.5 million viewers that you guys get on these shows, I'll use that as an opportunity to maybe shamelessly look for a card. 1998-99 Thunder. It was a very inexpensive entry-level sets, but they did have two, very desirable parallels called Raves and Super Rave out of 150 and 25. And I'm searching for both of those versions. There's a lot of speculation as to what happened to those cards. I've heard factory fire. I've heard a lot of different reasons why they weren't packed out necessarily for that. But this is what the card looks like. It's a really just not very pleasant looking card, and the parallel has some shine on the branding and his name. So not easy to find, but if anyone has one of those, you'll get your mortgage paid by myself for the month.
Just to clarify, Mike, for some of the audio, so does the foiling that comes on the Super Rave, does it have that same diamond design as some of the other ones, some of the other
It's like
years of Super Rave?
almost like a
Okay,
bronzer.
so a little different.
Yeah, and on the back, on the upper right hand corner, there's the serial numbering. It says Rave, out of 150 with the serial number, and then if it's the Super Rave, it's out of 25. So those are two cards that I'm always just searching for. Till I'm dead. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. It really was an honor to join you. It's been so fun watching that to join you guys. It really was a blast. So what cards I'm looking for at the moment, I'm about to finish the D's and move on to the E's before Thanksgiving. So if anyone has any higher end Tim Duncan or Kevin Durant on the OKC Thunder cards, some prisms or selects, and then with Duncan more Bowman Chrome or Topps Chrome hardware honors. That's what I'm looking for. I have full pages of both, but I really want to make them a little more high end before I post in a couple weeks. So if anyone has those, please feel free to get in touch with me. You can also follow me at Forkbeard's Basketball Cards on Instagram. I post full pages as well as almost every day 3 posts of single cards. And each single card I post, I write the biography of their stint on that team. So there's a little history when you come to my page.
Oh, that's awesome. I love reading that stuff.
Yeah, on those Raves and Super Raves, I could talk for hours on that, but I've never seen a Kukoc Rave and they're out of 150. I've never seen one. I don't know if there's ever been one for sale. I've seen a Super Rave for sale, but it was a long time ago and I didn't realize that there wasn't 25. So yes, they're numbered to 25 and 150, but there's no way that those cards are out there. But yes, if you have questions about 90s basketball, Mike, myself, I think a lot of us would love to answer any questions you have. Don't come at me and say, hey, how much is this card worth? Because that's not what I'm in it for. I've never really been in it for the money. I've been in it for the fun of chasing cards that I don't have. Yeah, obviously it's nice that stuff's worth more money. I know we're over an hour, but shameless plug for me. There's 2 white whales, and I think modern people think white whales are cards that just came out. I've been searching for these cards for like 20 years plus. Number one, it's tied for number one, so I could list off 100, but the top 2 Kukoc cards I'm looking for are 99 2000 Topps MVP promotion. And Mike shaking his head, I know he's got the Glenn Rice. It looks like the base Topps on the front. It's got an MVP stamp on it. The back of the card doesn't have a number to the card. It's a card you fill out and send into Topps. I've seen a Kukoc, but only sold out on ComC, and he's going to hold that one up. It looks just like that, except it's got Tony Kukoc on it. And yeah, that they are tough to find. But yeah, so if you have that Kukoc, I know a guy. Second one, Topps Total Gold 506. I love low end products with rare cards. They're numbered to 10. They're thick. And I'm looking for the Kukoc, and it's just a really cool photo of them. Never seen one. Would love to get one. If you got one, I know a guy. That's what I was going to say before we wrapped up, and it's escaping me. But again, thanks for having me on. Sorry I talked way more than everybody else, but it's been a blast. I will stop for now.
The final thing I'm going to say is the power of the community, and appreciate having new faces and old friends on here. But 2 of my absolute rarest Paul Pierce cards in my collection came specifically because Jeff found them on the internet and let me know. So I've got a Topps Bazooka Blue out of 5 that he found on Reddit from some seller that didn't even know what the card was, and then tried to sell it for $500 and had to work with them for over a year and a half to get it. But I would have never seen that. And then I have all 3 of the Topps MVP promotions for Pierce, and one of those Jeff found for me on Sports Lots. So definitely, putting yourself out there, letting people know what you collect, and being a good person goes a long way to helping you guys land some of these cards. So just give Jeff another shout out here.
Can I interject something before we sign off?
No, you cannot.
If you sent a question in, I know we only got to 1 question, and we've been going for an hour and 7 minutes almost. So I think that's what's so fun, is that we just hang out and talk about what comes up. I imagine we'll probably try to address those questions later. So sorry about that, and thank you for your patience. And then you guys mentioned, of course, all the information to get out there and wanting to get the information out there. So thank you guys for doing this, because hanging out, and I don't want you to think of yourselves as like guests here. It's just, this isn't necessarily anyone's show. It's just like us hanging out and coming together and talking about cards. So you guys have so much info, so it's such a valuable resource to have all of you on, and we appreciate that. So please consider coming back every week, any week, whatever. So thank you guys.
Well said, Joey. I think, again, yeah, definitely, we say it every week, and we hope we are as inviting as we seem, but we want people to just be hitting that QR code or reaching out to us and say, hey, I'd love to talk about this, and come on anytime. So well said, Joey, and appreciate everyone that joined this week, and appreciate the questions, and we can definitely backlog those and hit those at another time for sure as these conversations continue. But I think that's all from me. So anything else, Joey, on your end, or should we sign off?
I think we're good to go. Thanks a lot,
All right.
everyone. Have an awesome week.
Be well, everybody.